All right, welcome to lesson 1.3. This lesson is on the ecological importance of plants, and our learning objective is that you should be able to recognize and explain the ecological importance of plants. So for our introduction, our focus in this lesson is how important plants are to the environment and all the creatures around them, including us. And we will explore why plants are vital to the natural world and us. So first, what are plants? So plants are multicellular and eukaryotic organisms that have cell walls, chloroplasts, and perform autotrophic nutrition. If they don't do those things, chances are they are not a plant. Key characteristics of plants are the cell wall for structural support, chloroplasts for photosynthesis, autotrophic nutrition for producing their own food. So let's compare plants versus animals versus fungi. First, we got plants. This is a plant right here. They are autotrophic. That means they kind of, in a way, create their own food. Animals are heterotrophic. They have to eat other things. And then fungi, which I think are something that some people get confused or lump in with plants, they do neither. They are they absorb the nutrition by decaying things around them. So let's talk about photosynthesis really briefly. We'll get really in detail with photosynthesis later in this class, but that's a key characteristic of plants, so it's a big part of their role. So photosynthesis is the process by which plants convert light energy into chemical energy in the form of glucose. So the process is that chloroplasts contain chlorophyll, which captures light energy, carbon dioxide, CO2, and water, H2O, combined with light energy to produce glucose and oxygen. And oxygen in this process is considered a waste. And this process should be reviewed because you should have learned it in biology. So photosynthesis is the foundation of energy flow in ecosystems. Plants are what brings in all energy in the world, has originated at some point from the sun. So that energy is absorbed and converted by those plants. Those plants are then eaten by herbivores like this deer, and they make it up the trophic level all the way to wherever humans fall in that. So it really is the foundation of energy flow in all ecosystems, 99% of them. So photosynthesis, oxygen production. Plants are primary producers of oxygen through photosynthesis, and they're obviously a part of the global oxygen cycle. So plants release oxygen during photosynthesis, which is used by animals during respiration. Plants also use it for respiration, just it looks a little bit different. And oxygen is cycled through the atmosphere and is essential for aerobic organisms like humans. Aerobic organisms are those that need oxygen, like humans, plants, other animals. Photosynthesis is also important for carbon dioxide absorption. So plants absorb carbon dioxide from the atmosphere during photosynthesis. So this map right here, this is showing carbon dioxide levels, and it's really heavy up at the top, little heavy right here, but right in the middle, this is around the equator. Around the equator is where we have rainforests, which are really, really, really dense collection of plants, a ton of photosynthesis happening. So there tends to be cleaner air there, less carbon dioxide, and that's what we see right here. And this also fluctuates through the year, through the seasons. If more photosynthesis is happening in the spring and summer, then those levels are lower. If less is happening in the fall and winter, then the levels are higher, typically. All right, deforestation impact. So deforestation, it's deforesting an area, cutting down all the trees. Deforestation leads to increased CO2 levels due to the reduced carbon sequestration. I always struggle with that word. But when trees are alive, like these guys over there, they are photosynthesizing, they are creating new cells, they are storing carbon. When they are cut down and dead, they cannot do that. And so it means that more CO2 is going to be released and less is going to be absorbed. So for carbon sequestration, plants help mitigate climate change by storing carbon in their tissues, reducing atmospheric CO2 levels. If you have not yet taken environmental science, we talk about climate change and how CO2 is a big part of that. So plants are really important in bringing down some of that CO2 that's been released. And also for climate regulation. So through carbon sequestration, their role, so they help regulate the climate because they're taking out that CO2, but also through their role in the water cycle. So plants take in water through their roots, and then transpiration is them actually releasing that water out through their leaves, and it increases the humidity of surrounding areas. And then in cities, they provide shade and temperature regulation. Plants also provide ecosystem support. So there is habitat creation. Without plants, there would not be a whole lot of habitats available. So plants provide habitats for various organisms, promoting biodiversity. It also stabilizes the soil. So plant roots prevent soil erosion, maintaining soil structure and fertility. If you had a pile of dirt and one had grass growing on it and one was just plain dirt, soil, whatever, and you dumped water on it, without the plants, that just plain pile of dirt, it would all just rush away. But with plants present, those roots help hold that soil together. And then there's also ecosystem balance. So diverse plant species contribute to ecosystem stability and resilience. Biodiversity is important to a healthy ecosystem. Other ecosystem services include air and water purification, recreation, and aesthetic value. The world would be a lot uglier without plants around. So we have habitat creation, all in the trees and the fallen logs, ferns underneath, soil stabilization, so where there's no soil here, that's going to have a lot more runoff, whereas where there's no plants here, more runoff, whereas these plants are going to help hold that soil together. And ecosystem balance. Without a good, diverse, or healthy diversity of plants in an ecosystem, we're not going to have the habitats, we're not going to have the food, we're not going to have the energy available to support the rest of the organisms within that ecosystem. All right, then we have food chain and biodiversity. Food chain being what eats what, and biodiversity being the diversity of the living things. So primary producers, plants, they are the main producers of energy, so they are primary producers, are at the base of the food chain, including food through photosynthesis, producing food through photosynthesis. So base of the food chain, and then a little bunny eats it, something eats the bunny, so that we keep going on. But plants are going to be at the bottom. So trophic levels are different feeding levels in a food chain. The different levels are producers, consumers, decomposers. There's multiple levels of consumers as well, but plants are always going to be our producers. And then biodiversity, healthy plant populations support a diverse range of animals and promote ecosystem health. Then we have pollination and reproduction. So reproduction methods, plants reproduce through sexual and asexual methods. That means that sometimes plants don't need another plant, they just create a clone, but sometimes they do need another plant or use another plant to get better genetic diversity to create seeds and fruit. And the pollinators, the bees, the butterflies, transfer pollen, aiding in plant reproduction. There has been, save the bees, there's a decline in pollinator populations, which threatens plant reproduction and food production. We need plants to be pollinated because that's how they grow fruit and how they reproduce. And if they can't grow fruit and they can't reproduce, then we are losing a lot of food. All right, that was a kind of long one. So brief conclusion, plants are vital to the ecosystems around us for several reasons, such as oxygen production, carbon dioxide absorption, habitat creation, food chain support, and more. And one of our goals in this class is to remove the green blur and start to recognize the plant life around us. It is vital for our survival. All right, that is the end. If you have any questions, please let me know, and I will see you in the next one.